At best, the alien abduction phenomenon is a terrifying, traumatic experience. At its worst, well, we think they sometimes take people and don't put them back.
I lost my mother and brother to this trauma. He murdered her, then killed himself.
These women are being used as human incubators, with all their children stolen away into the night.
A 6-foot-tall entity of blue-white light paralyzed me, then bent down and said into my ear, "Hi, Steve." It knew my name.
We hear gruesome stories of experiments and dissections. Imagine dying on a metal table while paralyzed, surrounded by alien faces. It's a real horror story. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our show, Abductions 101, UFOs and the Paranormal Connection. My name is Leslie Shaw.
I am Stephen Shaw.
And welcome back again to our show. We're really excited to have our guest tonight. It's Kevin Sapiel Jr., the host of the Where the Weird Ones Are podcast, and we'll be having him a little bit later.
Yes.
But tonight we wanted to start with the disappearance of Major General McCasland and what we think it means.
Yes, he disappeared from his condominium in Las Vegas, and he was 68 years old. This happened at the end of February of this year.
27th.
February 27th, yeah, right at the end. And he, as far as people can know, they've actually checked the cameras of the surrounding houses and condominiums. They don't even know what he was wearing. Okay, apparently he was going, from what they can tell, that he was going to go like on a hike or a jog from his condominium, into the desert area, the surrounding area, right? This guy was also, interestingly, one of the heads or the head of some of the bio research at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for probably over a decade, if not more.
He's a very high echelon UAP and UFO insider.
Yes.
Of many, many decades.
Yes.
Like 3 decades.
So anyways, it's really interesting how they're couching this. They say, okay, they're concerned about his health. He has medical issues. He has a medical issue. They won't say what the medical issue is.
Which is weird, because if you've got a search party out, it would be helpful to know what medical problem the person has. They got
search and rescue. They got the sheriffs looking for him. They got the local authorities looking for this guy. They can't say, they don't know what he was wearing. They can't say, or not saying whether he has diabetes or a heart condition. Okay, so that would be really helpful if you're trying to find somebody that has, medical issues. They're being very vague about it. And it's just interesting that this guy, and they don't have video of this guy going onto a trail. At least not that we're releasing. And
this disappearance occurred within a few days of President Trump's announcement to release the UFO and alien videos and information and documents. And
guess what happened right after he said it? Remember, Leslie? All that research, mysteriously,
oh yes, somebody erased the what I think they're calling it the Immaculate Constellation server. Mm-hmm. But fortunately, some guy made a backup copy.
It was millions of files.
But I think this backup copy could just be completely whitewashed and scrubbed information too. So, of course, if it really is, a lot of the data is lost. That's a true terrible loss.
Right.
But we think what's happening here is that the legacy program, the ones who are entrenched in our government and Pentagon, we think that they are getting nervous about all this disclosure talk and this effort from Congress and from the president to get disclosure.
Right.
And we think that it's kind of like cornering a dangerous animal. We think that they may be closing ranks and possibly are responsible for the disappearance of McCasland.
Yes. It's very, for me, it's very, very suspicious, the timing and also to the lack of information.
And I would make a prediction that as time goes on, as the push for disclosure continues, that we're going to see other UFO insiders starting to disappear.
That's right. People that were definitely in the know, that were actually there inside. Yeah, if anybody would know what was going on at Wright-Patterson in the sensitive area that he was in for all that time and being so high up as a major general in the Air Force, he would know information, regardless of non-disclosure agreements.
Yep. So you heard it here first.
Yep.
Keep an eye on UFO insiders and hope we don't lose any more.
That's right.
All right. Well, we'll be back in just a moment with our wonderful guest, Kevin Sapiel Jr., the host of the Where the Weird Ones Are podcast.
Looking forward to it.
Yes. He's also a writer, and
yep.
We'll hear all about it later.
That's right.
Good evening. Are you wondering if the UFO phenomenon is real?
Are you wondering who is flying the UFOs in our skies?
Are you wondering if aliens are really abducting people?
Then you need to read this book.
The book is titled Who They Are and What They're Up To.
Find out the true identity of the aliens.
Learn a very brief history of the UFO cover-up.
Find out where the aliens are hiding.
Find out why our government is in league with them.
Learn about their bizarre hybrid breeding program.
Find out why their technology is 13,000 years ahead of ours.
The reference section of this book alone is worth the price.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw.
Now available on Amazon and coming soon in the Spanish and Czech languages.
And soon to be in English and Spanish audiobooks.
With a new foreword by fellow author and abductee Karen Wilkinson.
Again, that was Who They Are and What They're Up To by Leslie and Stephen Shaw, now available on Amazon. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our show, Abductions 101, UFOs and the Paranormal Connection. I'm Leslie Shaw.
I'm Stephen Shaw, co-host.
And tonight, our wonderful guest is Kevin Sapiel Jr. He is an author, a producer, a filmmaker, and a fellow podcaster, the host of Where the Weird Things Are. Welcome, Kevin.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Hi. So, I wanted to find out what happened in your life to make you interested in the paranormal. Did you have a paranormal experience?
Yeah, I would say I've had pretty much paranormal experiences my entire life. There was maybe 15-year stint where it didn't seem to bother me, but it was mostly my childhood and then recent years, as I once I noticed that I was becoming more peaceful in my own life, that's when the spirits were like, hey man, we gotta mess with this guy.
It's too good, we have to stop it.
Yes, yeah. So I want to say it was really horror movies that initially drew me in because, well, I was about 4 years old. I shouldn't have been watching horror movies at that age.
Yes, I was going to say, who let you watch a horror movie?
But we were at I think it was one of my uncle's houses.
Yes.
The family used to get together for big card games and stuff like that way back in the day when I was little. And my cousin was there, and she was up from North Carolina, and she decided she should have been. I was 4, so she was about 8. Still also young for horror movies, but she was a little weird, and she thought it was hilarious to put Child's Play 2 on. And ever since then, I've been scared of dolls.
Dolls, right? Chucky. Is that Chucky?
Yes, Chucky, yeah. So, but then, my first ever paranormal experience that I can recall, at least I consider it paranormal, even though there's not really anything that really happened. It was just like a figure, but we had just watched Ghostbusters 2, my sister and I, and my mom was trying to get us to bed. And I remember my sister was crying that she saw a witch in her bedroom window, and she remembers it now as an adult as she just saw a face. I was like, I distinctively remember you saying witch. She's like, I may as well, but My dad had just gotten home as we were trying to get from work, as we were trying to get ready for bed. So she was already crying about this thing she saw in the window. So he was in there consoling her. And I remember walking down the hallway, passing her bedroom, looking at her and being like, this lady's crazy. And I get all the way down to the end of the hallway into my bedroom, and straight across from my doorway was like a double window. And I just saw two figures go by fairly quickly. And I just stood there and I was like, what the heck was that? And then I turned around and I walked back to the living room. But because my sister said she saw a witch, at least in my recollection, I was like, well, it's a witch. So I assumed that these two figures were just two witches flying by my bedroom window, just and I was just like, oh my God, there's witches outside. So we lived in a trailer and it was fairly high. So for even an adult person to be standing outside, it would only be like the top of their head.
I know what you mean. Mobile homes are like 3 feet up to the floor, right?
Yeah.
And then,
and we were on the side of the mountain, so we had a little bit extra for a foundation, just because we were like on the side. So we were out in Vermont at the time, and yeah, I was like, and my sister and I, because she said she saw a face, and I was like, well, maybe it was Bigfoot. And we joked about that, but there's a lot of sightings in that area that we lived of Bigfoot. So not saying that's what she saw, but when she said she saw a face, and then I saw the two figures, and then I was scared for the rest of my time there. And there is like not a witch, but there is a ghost that flies up to the window in Ghostbusters 2 to grab the baby, and we're both kind of like, were we like manifesting it in our heads because we were both, it kind of creeped us both out,
right?
or did we in unison create this vision for both of us? But if it whatever it was, that's all it did, was just show up in my sister's window and then a few minutes later in mine. But ever since then, I was like, ghosts are real.
And what was the next thing that happened in your life?
I would say the next thing were shadow figures as well, just figures that would appear in the corners. So we ended up, there was a stint of time where we stayed with my grandparents, and we stayed with them for like a month at one point, and that was the first time that I saw shadow figures. I was always in their basement, and I would always, my grandfather would send me down to the basement to get like something for whatever, something that they were storing down there that they would occasionally need. And I remember every time he sent me down to the basement to grab something, I would see one of these figures, and it would scare me so bad. I would sing, and I would like, well, if I'm singing, they'll be like, oh, we'll leave this kid alone. He's singing. He's going to serenade us. And so as a child, like just singing, I would close my eyes and I would sing, and I would try and get to whatever I had to get to as fast as I could. And they would always be in different positions. They'd be like leaned up like this against a lolly column, crouched in the corner, or just standing. I've heard of that posture
a lot, actually.
Straight, yeah. Mm-hmm. Or ducked underneath the stairs, and then I would stare at the stairs, and I could see one sitting underneath the stairs every once in a while. And because even when I didn't see them under the stairs, because of the first time I ever saw one underneath the stairs, because there's a little gap underneath the basement stairs, I would like try and like high step going up the stairs, because I would think that they were gonna try and grab my feet. But
what do you guys think these shadow figures are?
Well, did the shadow figures, number one, did you get an impression whether it was male or female or size, or were there more than one?
There was always like at least two or three. Well, not always, but sometimes it was one, sometimes it would show up as two, sometimes there would be three, and it'd be scattered all around. But I guess because it looked just so plain to me, where it didn't have any distinctive features, I would say male. But I never personally, I never got an impression of either or.
Did it then go into your room at all? Did you see them in your bedroom? Did they ever manifest in your bedroom, to your knowledge?
Not as a child. I did have one recently. I watched one. It was maybe 3 years ago now. It was like right when I started doing my own podcast. I had one that actually identifying features. It was very voluptuous. This is the first one that I've ever seen like really moving too, as a shadow figure. Like the majority of my life, they all just were still, and if I like got close to them, they would dissipate. Or if I would say like, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you, or something like that, they would disappear.
Yeah, that usually chases them off.
Yeah. But as a kid, I just ran away. So I never really saw them move. But like 3 years ago, I had one in my house, and I had just woken up. This is probably one of my most terrifying experiences of my entire life. I remember I was sprawled out across my bed like a starfish. I was so tired. And I woke up to my name being called, and I was kind of groggy, and I'm like, and my doorway is at the foot of my bed. So I had to pick my head up and look down the bed towards the doorway. And there was like faint light coming in from like the night light for the kids in the bathroom and stuff like that. And I see this figure standing in my doorway, and I'm like, what the heck? And she had long flowing hair. She was very voluptuous, something that, you know, as a man, I would love to see in my bedroom at night, but knowing who it was would be great.
Yeah. Under normal circumstances. Yes.
Yeah. So she starts moving, but she moves like, the best way to describe it was like C-3PO from Star Wars. So she's like doing this kind of thing as she comes towards me, and I immediately was like, what the hell, this isn't normal. And I was like in this like paralysis state. I couldn't move my body, I could only move my eyes, and then I could wiggle my fingers, and my phone was sitting across on the other side of my bed. And I remember I was like, I need to grab it so I can turn the flashlight on. And I was just looking at my fingers. I'd wiggle my fingers a little bit, and then I'd look back at it, and then I'd wiggle my fingers. And just as it was at the foot of my bed, like about to get onto my bed, I broke out of the paralysis state, grabbed my phone, lit my phone up, and shined it, and she was gone. And I was like, I started like hyperventilating and sweating, and it was scary. And then I was scared to even leave my room after that, because I realized I had to go to the bathroom, and I was not going to go to sleep without going. And I just I feel like it was probably only a couple minutes, but it felt like half an hour or so that I was sitting on the edge of my bed staring at my doorway, because I was afraid that she was going to be like hiding on the other side of the wall and like grab me as I walked out or something like that. So, but I do this in my head. I think that it's protection, is whenever I see a ghost, or that I think that there's going to be a ghost or something that's going to grab me when I'm walking around a corner, I'll immediately come out with karate chops, because karate chops kills ghosts. Everybody knows this.
Of course. Yeah. We've seen Ghostbusters too, right?
Yeah, it's you know, you don't really have too much to worry about from the standpoint when you're in like a sleep paralysis, or even like an astral type state. Like I do that frequently, like hover above my body, but I'm not in sleep paralysis, but it's similar. You're in a different brainwave state, and you're different state of consciousness in a sense, and it's just that's where they communicate more. They can't communicate with us in like what we're doing right now, generally speaking, like at 30 to 40 brainwave cycles per second. But when you're down to about 4 or 5 brainwaves, And then you're going to get things like you feel like for me, it's like the body feels like it's glued to the floor, but I'm still fully conscious about what I'm doing. I can move if I want to, but I don't get the fear response. And I think that, for me at least, because I'm kind of had a lot of experience with that it's something that I just say, okay, well, I'm being communicated with again. I've had that same black figure recently, not in the past couple months, but I had a female black figure, one that got into bed with me a couple times, and one time said husband into my ear when I was just getting out of bed in the morning. Another time it was at the left side of
She's making me jealous.
At the left side of my bed. Kind of small she was, but she was having a full-on conversation with me. So we're having a conversation. Another time, it was down for a couple times. It was down at the foot of the bed, basically trying to pull my feet and pull the blankets. So but I can't. That doesn't happen when I'm in a normal state like this. A
waking state.
Waking state. It happens in the other states.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I've told the story a couple times and everybody's like, do you think it was a succubus? I was like, I don't know. I don't really like I feel like if it was a succubus, it would have got what it wanted. It wouldn't have, it wouldn't have felt the need to like walk into it would have just did its business and then left or stayed because a succubus is an attachment.
Yeah.
So to like manifest like that was kind of weird for me. So I think whatever it was wanted to communicate and thought like, well, I know that, women come in here or a woman comes in here. So I wonder if I'll be able to communicate if I present myself that way, or maybe it is a female entity. I'm not 100% sure, but I've never seen it again. It was only that one time. But right out in that hallway, outside of that bedroom is where I do see shadow figures pretty regularly.
Yeah, they're shadow figures.
Yeah, I haven't in a while, but the last time I did say, like, in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you. If you're not if you're here for negative reasons or whatever, I don't want you here, and I haven't seen them since. So.
I have a theory on what's going on with this the shadow people and the sleep paralysis. When Stephen and I studied with the Gnostics, they taught us how to astral project. And one of the ways to astral project is when you find yourself in the hypnagogic state, that's where you can separate your body from your astral body from your physical body. And this state in between sleep and wakefulness, they call it the hypnagogic state. And most people feel afraid or vulnerable in that state because they're paralyzed, they can't move. But actually, the Gnostics look at it as a time of power, because an astral traveler has power over his environment and this situation. Like if let's say it was a demon harassing you from the astral realm, once you become astral yourself, you can ascend to a higher plane. Or you can do what you did, which is summon
invoke the name of Jesus.
Any ascended master, any ascended being. Because I've heard of Buddha working too.
Paramahansa Yogananda.
Yeah, and that's a mouthful, but I'm sure he would help too.
Yeah, I think it's like the intent, really, more than the name.
Yeah.
Sure. I have an attachment that I've been told by two different legitimate healers, and without even being asked, I have an attachment on my right shoulder of an entity that has been with me for a long time, and it's gotten bigger over the years because it's been with me for a long time. But it does manifest itself from time to time, and one time, especially when I was 23, I was sleeping on the living room floor in the house we used to own in Woodland Hills, California, and I woke up on the floor. I loved sleeping on the floor at that time in my life when I was 23, and I looked at there was a little light on in the bar so I could see, and we had these beams across the ceiling, and there was this about a 2-foot entity. It's about like 2 foot by about 1.5 feet wide, and had a triangular shaped head with these big black eyes, and it was shimmery, but it was just hovering up there by the ceiling beam. And when it noticed that I noticed it floated down, landed on the floor by my right side, and it had this deep baritone voice, and I was completely awake, all right? But I was completely relaxed, but I knew that, okay. So it said, "Do you want me to help you get out of your body?" It's plain as day in a baritone voice. And I knew that I couldn't show fear. For whatever reason, I just knew, okay, I got to be strong. So I said, "You can help me, but you cannot possess me." And honestly, I do not know why I said that. And it grabbed my right arm, my hand, and it started going back up into the air. It was trying to pull me with it, trying to pull my astral body with it. And then it kind of going, "Arr!" I got a frustration, and it just ended up just disappearing. So when I got up in the morning later, this is like 5 o'clock in the morning. When I got up later, my dad said, "Who are you having a conversation with at 5 o'clock in the morning?" And so he heard two voices.
He heard the voice too.
So it was like,
wow.
this has been something that has been with my family for 4 generations.
Yeah, they're a very psychic
We've
bunch.
had these manifestations, and we've had this if you've read our book, we've had this entity called Oglegli that has shown up, the same being, for 4 generations to different people, and that have been in the family. And it's that's why we say that we call them our cousins, the ones that people call them aliens, but we call them cousins, just because they've been here. They've been with my family for 120 to 150 years. So
these ones that we see when we're halfway in between sleep and wakefulness, I think those are those might be coming from the astral realm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Things, live in the astral realm, and they sometimes harass us.
Yeah.
And the Gnostics, they see our universe as like 11 dimensions, and we occupy dimension 10, and 11 is hell to the Gnostics. They consider it to be hell. And I was kind of wondering if there were beings in hell that are trying to break into our reality through the astral plane, perhaps. And because that's my theory. What do you think about that idea?
I mean, I think it's possible, to be honest with you. It's just like, you think about with regular demon possession, or, well, they say it's demon possession.
Right.
Is there a way to prove it? I'm not 100% sure, but I do think that whatever the lower realm is, if it's demons or hell or whatever name that they want to put to them, and I do think that they constantly are trying to mess with us, trying to enter here. I think this is the place that they want to be. I think if we go like biblically, where we were in the garden and then we were cast out or whatever, I think this might have been that maybe possibly their place, and then they got removed for us to be here. But either way, historically and biblically, this has been, we hold dominion over this plane. So I do think that there's something for them, if they were for them to be able to manifest, and that's why they kind of like torment us in a way. And when it comes to aliens, I don't know, like you said, you call them cousins.
Right.
I think that they are just a subspecies of us, and so I don't, whether
That's kind of what we think too. Yeah, that they used to be part of our civilization, but we think they broke away from us thousands of years ago.
Yeah, due to the flood. Yeah,
and have been mutating underground ever since. And because the aliens, a lot of them look exactly like humans, except paler and
the Nordics,
taller. Yeah, and even the Greys are built just like we are, skeletally. Our skeletal structure.
Mm-hmm.
And some photos show them having nipples, which means they evolved from lactating mammals somewhere. I think here.
Yeah.
Yep.
then when it comes to demons, how are they depicted a lot? They're depicted as these grotesque, large looking things with horns and teeth and stuff like that. And I almost wonder, sometimes I wonder if somebody was just like, I have an idea to scare people, you know.
Mhm.
And then they went that way. You know?
Sure. Sure. There's always, we're really good at that. You know,
Yeah,
we're good
hoaxing
at,
is a
yeah.
human characteristic.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
see it so much these days. People are hoaxing everything, including aliens and animals and all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff.
I know.
It's pretty easy to see through it if you really look at it. But it's getting harder to spot the
Yeah, it's hard.
hoaxes.
Getting harder to spot them. CGI is
Somebody
really.
just did supposedly a Sasquatch. The picture was taken. The video was taken from like a helicopter, and it's just this big black Sasquatch that's with the long arms that is walking, and they only got like maybe 10 seconds worth of video, right? But you just watch these Sasquatches. I said, you know what? The stride is too short.
And also,
this is not a Sasquatch.
And it didn't look up. I thought it was suspicious that it didn't look up back at the helicopter.
Yeah.
They're loud as hell, so you'd think
they got
you'd be looking.
They got a 5 to 6 foot stride. The real ones, and it's like, that's a human being.
It looked like a normal human.
And
stride.
if you're videotaping a Sasquatch and it's in the middle of an ice field, are you just going to take 10 seconds? No. You're not going to take 10 seconds. You're going to follow it. You're going to
you're going to start circling.
Right, exactly. It's just this crap,
Yeah,
right. It's just like the one in Colorado that they got from the train. It kind of blended in with the tall grass. There is like an amber color.
Yeah. And it sat down, and
it sat down, and you could almost like lose it, but you didn't like. And I was watching it, and when it turned, it does do the turn the head to look at like the train. When it does that, and it like kind of like does this like little stumble thing, and you can kind of like, I don't know. To me, it looked a little like a suit like movement in the neck area, and I was like, I don't think that's real.
The small ones are between 6 and 8 feet tall. The ones in Alaska are between like 8 to 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
So it's we've talked to people that have actually really seen them. Native Americans and also a couple military guys, and it's a totally different situation than these people, saying they're just gonna know.
I saw a video on Sasquatch that is my favorite one. You can't see him very well. All you do is you catch a little glimpse of his face, but then it runs to the right, off out of the frame, because behind these trees. And something climbs one of these trees in about 2 seconds from bottom to top. And then it jumps back down, and you still can't see him. He's behind a tree, but he lifts a tree and slams it down to the ground, like a club. And
I didn't see that one.
A guy in a gorilla suit, fine. It maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But when it actually lifts a tree and slams it into the ground, that's got to be Sasquatch. It can't be anything else.
Right. I think I saw
tremendous strength.
I think I saw a Bigfoot in Tennessee.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, it was through a thermal camera though, so it's that's the only sucky part about it. But we were literally out there for looking for him. We found a bunch of like these little structures. I don't know if you're familiar with Harley Owens at all. He does a lot of Bigfoot research and Dogman research out in Tennessee.
I think I've seen him on TV.
Maybe. I think he's been on a show or two. But so he was out there with us. It was his area that he likes to go out to. And we found this old hog cage. And one of the guys was like, well, let's like put up bait just so we could like film, maybe catch him on camera, or at least like on thermal, because the thermal that we had also recorded video. And the whole walk in there that night was because we went out and we went out during the day. That's when we found the cage. We weren't trying to catch it in the cage or anything. We're just trying to see if we could get some activity.
Right.
And the whole walk out there, we're hearing noises and stuff, and it was pretty interesting. I had the most fun I've ever had on a 20-minute hike that I've had in my entire life, just because of all the noises and then like the hooting and hollering and stuff like that. It was really exciting. But so we all sit down, we go completely dark. We're trying to be quiet. And Harley Owens is the one with the camera, and he's watching the bait. And there's a little like chemical light that they had on with the bait. So like if something was grabbing it, we could see it moving.
Right.
And then he just starts screaming. He's like, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, there's two of them. There's two of them." And we're like, "Shh. Like, be quiet. Why are you yelling?" But so he was very excited. So he shows my friend Riley, and he's like, "Yeah, oh my God, there's one over there." And then I look into it, and as clear as day, right behind the bush, I see a figure glowing in red, shoulders, head, everything, just standing on the other side of where this cage is. There's a little bush, and then there's a tree, and he's like right next to that tree. And I was like, "Oh my God." And I turned and I looked at my buddy Drew, and he's like, "Everybody turn your lights on. Let's get over there." So we run down over there, and there's nothing there. The bait hasn't been touched. And we go right behind that bush where he was. There's no footprints or anything. And I'm like, this is weird. And so as we're like investigating where we saw him standing, my buddy Drew is like, "I've always been a flesh and blood guy, but
Me too.
this is really weird." And I was like, "Dude," I think that they, like, if they're interdimensional, when they're here, they can be flesh and blood. Like, I'm not opposed to that at all. And I'm not saying that they're not flesh and blood, but
Right.
I do think there's a spiritual aspect to them. Sometimes
Well,
I think that
we
they
do know
are
from
just
the-
a ghost.
Yeah, we do know from the Bigfoot Genome Project that they are 50% Homo sapien. That's
Yeah.
what their DNA is, 50%. We don't know what the other 50% is, but we do know that they are 50% human.
I had heard about her report, of course, but I finally just read it, the whole thing. And then I had to have him read it because he's medically trained and he was
Right.
able to explain it to me. But she found this consistent DNA profile from 111 samples. We're not talking about 2 samples or 4 samples here. We're talking about a big group of, a big pile of DNA that she was able to test. And she submitted it to the International Zoological Society. The name I can't remember at the moment, but they came back and gave her credit for the find. And it now has a Latin name, Homo sapiens cognatus.
Right.
And the DNA is half human. Bigfoot
Right.
is half human,
Right.
And we think this goes a long way into kind of proving our theory correct. We think that, the aliens are not really aliens, are living underground and have been for 13,000 years. We think they are breeding these hybrids, all of them, for whatever, they're as workers maybe, or as, we think they utilize Bigfoot to guard their underground facilities as a sentry and also as recon for the surface to find out what's going on the surface. We think they're doing Dogman.
Yeah, I think that would explain a lot of the UFO alien sightings, and then right afterwards you see a Bigfoot.
Right. And yours could have.
So many of those.
We think they
Right,
have the same technology, Bigfoot's, because proximity to Bigfoot drains camera batteries and electronics malfunction, just like with aliens. And we know that aliens can step into a portal and go to another place.
Yeah, our cousins, right.
And, everybody calls them aliens, so I do too. most of the time. But our alien cousin friends, they can go into portals, and I think maybe that's where your Bigfoot disappeared. It
That's
just
what- yeah.
opened a portal and bye, I'm out of here.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And I was hoping to find like a some kind of foot outline, some footprint of anything, like anything that would look like it was standing there, and I couldn't. But it's interesting too, is because right after that encounter, the battery to the thermal that was fully charged before we went out there had died.
Yeah.
And then what happened when we looked at the playback, it got a little scratchy right when we were about to see them, and there was no figure in the camera, in the recording. Although
Very
three of us
frustrating, yeah.
looked right through the lens and saw a figure standing there, but the playback had nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's almost as if when you get to recording devices, if you could get a recording device like an old Bolex that's analog,
Yeah.
the Bolex wouldn't be losing power. So I think from now on, when people go out trying to get video,
Get an old Bolex.
get an old Bolex.
The
Like-
Patterson Gimlin film was a guy had a 16 millimeter Bolex camera.
Yeah.
And these are spring operated drives.
Yeah.
You just push the button and it's a spring drive. And consequently, there's no electronics involved.
Right.
Which is why I think it's such a
You would know about that
quality
being a
video.
producer. Yeah.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course you know
A
that.
director. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of films have you made?
I haven't made one yet. I'm literally in the middle of making one right now.
Oh, what's it about?
But it's about so if the story follows a young woman named Ava Shepherd, she's an up and coming paranormal investigator on YouTube. So it's a found footage film because she's looking for her next big thing. And somebody recommends this place called the Densmore Manor. And the owner had just opened it up to paranormal investigations, and she could possibly be the first person to ever paranormal investigate there. So she's like, I'm going to get on TV. I'm going to get a TV spot. I'm going to be the first person to check this out, blah, 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 blah. And then she has she does investigations with her best friend, Lila Hart, and her older brother, Ryan Hart. And they go and investigate, and a lot of strange things start to unravel while they're there. Hence the found footage. So,
Cool.
but we're
Pretty
gonna be filming in a real haunted house. It's the famous S.K. Pierce Mansion in Gardner, Massachusetts.
Ooh.
So
cool.
yeah,
I don't think I know that one.
it's the story that I wrote. So I wrote it, and I'm also going to be a character in it, and then I'm also trying to direct all the ladies that are going to be there. And it's awesome. I think the storyline is pretty great. Michael Thompson, I don't know if you guys have had the pleasure of meeting him, but he's also an author. He's going to be so one of the parts of the backstory of this manor in the story is that the last Densmore was a cult leader, and he was following this entity that provides youth through blood sacrifice and prosperity.
Mm-hmm.
So it provides youth and prosperity. And so he had this like huge following, and then he got arrested and stuff like that in the 80s. And then other owners took over. They tried to make something of it, but they kept having these paranormal experiences, and they couldn't get anything off the ground. So that's why the new owner is like, oh, let's do paranormal investigations.
There you go.
So that's that. And then as soon as we're done with this one, I'm gonna be going into another one. So horror is my main vein. And the next
Cool.
one is gonna be traditional cinema instead of found footage, and we're going to do a true crime podcaster who finds out that she has a stalker. So she lives alone in the woods up here in Maine. She lives alone with her dog, and she's a pretty well known figure in the true crime world. And then she finds out she has a stalker, and then the horror kind of unravels from there.
Is it a paranormal stalker?
No, this one's full on human terror.
Just a bad guy, huh?
Yeah, just a really bad guy. I don't even like him right now because I'm writing him.
Yeah, sure. That's always a good sign.
That's so funny. I wrote a screenplay not too long ago about our theories, and an abductee is sprung from his prison by a girl alien. Boy meets girl, right? Mm-hmm. And they go on the run together, kind of thing, And this my bad guy is this general who's trying to keep a lid on the UFO phenomenon, trying to hide it, and doing what they're really doing, as far as the Men in Black thing, where they come to your house and threaten you and that kind of thing. Yeah. And I just couldn't make him a true bad guy. He murders one person, but then at the end he turns it around, So I'm not sure I can really write a really bad guy. I'm kind of too nice myself. I can't get my head around it,
Yeah, for a long time I was writing stories, and because I do enjoy. I think horror is entertaining, and I wrote a couple stories in high school, and then everybody survived, and I was like, I couldn't kill anybody, in the story, so I felt bad. But I wrote a big production script for hopefully for a big production company. Well, and I submitted it to 2 different competitions, and it's called The Great Warpath. So it follows the main character is indigenous. He's a young Ojibwe hunter. And it takes place in like mid 1800s area, in the frontier. So, they're just getting settled, and like settlers are slowly arriving. They're not that occupied out there, in like the Michigan area. And there's, lo and behold, a cult. The cult stuff seems to fascinate me the most, I think, which because there's been a few stories that I've written now that have that aspect. And when I look back on it, because even my books have, my second book that I wrote has a cult like, what's the word that I'm looking for? Symbolism in it and stuff like that. But so there's a cult or secret society that thrives off of blood and fear, also using human sacrifice as a prosperity and youth kind of thing as well. And people start going missing, and this Ojibwe hunter is like kind of investigating it with his dad, and the sheriff is a good guy but not a good guy, and so he's got to figure out who these killers are, and then eventually he gets captured himself and has to fight his way out.
He's a little bit of an anti-hero, maybe.
Well, anyways, for us to get back on topic here.
Oh, sorry.
We've been kind of going off.
We did just veer off, didn't we?
So anyways, have you heard about that Major General McCasland?
McCasland,
who just mysteriously went missing outside of Las Vegas just the end of February?
I have not.
Yeah, it's kind of been around, popping up on my Instagram feed a lot. He's this man was in charge of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base for many years.
Well, the research, the biological research division.
Yes, and so he was definitely a long-term UFO insider guy. And I have this theory that the legacy program is getting frightened of all this push for disclosure.
Mhm.
And they're I think they're getting like a wild animal that's been pushed into a corner. They're becoming dangerous, I think. And I think we might hear more in the future of UFO insiders disappearing.
It's very suspicious if you read the stories and the press releases. He's 68, in good shape. And all they're saying is that they're worried about him because the last time he was seen, they can't even describe the clothes he was wearing. They said that he went out. Somehow they know that he went out for a walk or a jog, right? And he's 68 years old. They said, well, they're worried about him because of his medical condition. There's no mention at all about what kind of medical condition they're worried about. I mean, if he's got a heart condition or he's got diabetes, law enforcement should know that they should have those type of medications. So he's been missing now for getting on 2 weeks, and that's as much as we know, except that he was very well connected as a major general in the Air Force, very well connected in the field of UFO and UFO research, especially biologics. So they're being really cagey about it. Okay, you don't know which direction he went, you don't know what clothes he is wearing, but you're worried about his medical condition.
And you're not telling what his medical conditions are.
It's the typical thing they do. They release just enough to say, okay, we made a release, but as far as I'm concerned, if this guy's missing, either he's dead or he's been being debriefed somewhere and being brainwashed or whatever. It's like, no.
Yeah.
These people still have a lot of power and they're scary still.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There are days where I wish that I had gotten into the military and climbed ranks and maybe knew a thing or two, but also at the same time, because of situations like this, I'm also kind of glad that I'm not. You know what I mean?
Me too.
But I often wonder, what is the point of hiding anything especially now? Why hide anything?
I think there's a lot of good reasons for it.
We think, for one thing, they've been lying to us for 85 straight years. So they would have to now come out and say, oh, those 85 years of lying, we were lying. Sorry.
Remember your Uncle Ted, who mysteriously went missing. Okay. You met your wife who got impregnated by, then you lost the baby. I mean, it's there's a lot of missing people and a lot of missing children that they'd have to say, yep, it was us. It was our cousins, because they're getting less viable. And then of course it would upset religions, and it would be a real, I think it's us now. I think it's us surface dwellers that are trying to keep this thing under wraps.
I think we should just rip off the Band-Aid and deal with the consequences. And then we can move forward with a government that doesn't have to lie to us every 5 minutes and doesn't have to misappropriate funds for these secret projects,
Yeah,
it's bad for a democracy, to have that kind of thing.
I agree. I also think it's bad for a democracy to only have two parties. Although I know we don't technically, but I think we should have. I think we should have a little bit more choices than just two, to be honest with you. But
independents do once in a while get into. There are two independents that are senators, I believe, that are independents. But that's about it.
Yeah, a
couple of representatives too. But
it's true. But in all intents and purposes, it's a two-party system, really.
It is.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And voting for a third one, they say, is just throwing your vote away.
The old saying. Yeah.
The old saying, indeed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Anyways, I do think that ripping the Band-Aid off would be great, a great way to move forward, just to get it over with. Like Leslie was saying, maybe we should rebuild our government system.
Certainly, we could use some more trust in it. And the other problem is they'd have to admit to how many murders they've committed to keep this quiet. And
Damn,
that's the
yeah.
real rub, I think. That's the one that's going to be hard.
And
Yeah.
all the, like say the we just saw for the first time, we saw the movie Communion that came out in 1989, the one about Whitley Strieber.
Actually, I've seen it a long time ago.
Well,
yeah.
I had seen it. It was the first time I'd ever seen it, and it was really interesting. Right at the end of the movie, he meets with our cousins or our aliens,
The
for
Greys,
like the last
small
time, right?
Greys, yeah.
And there's also these little kind of blue creatures that are kind of heavy set, almost like a little bit like the creature I saw that was hovering by the ceiling beam, but about the same size and shape. And they were like beckoning him to go and dance with them. And now the funny thing was, my mom, who was an automatic writer,
that happened to her. Yeah,
it happened exactly to her. But it happened in 1988, before the movie came out, and it was happened on Chinese New Year, which was Year of the Dragon in '88. And this basket-shaped UFO came down through the ceiling of our house in the woods in Sonora, California, and these little creatures, she called them like brightly dressed Chinese people, about 3 to 4 feet tall. They jumped out. And they were dancing around, and they were beckoning my mom to go with them, or to come and dance, or to go with them. And it was soundless, but my mom was just watching them, and she said, "Well, I'm not going to go with you," kind of thing. And then they went back into their UFO, and they went back to the roof. The funny thing is that my dad was sleeping in a room about 70 feet away in a different bedroom, and he was awakened at that same time when that was happening. He was awakened by these Chinese bells ringing. I got these Chinese bells for them for like Christmas, and he thought, my God, there must be a big windstorm outside. So he got out of bed
to take down his chimes.
It was these chimes were going bing, ding, 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 and there was absolutely no wind. And so when he got up to go get some coffee, they exchanged notes about what had happened. And my mom had these visuals, and my dad had the auditory, and they didn't know anything about it being Chinese New Year. And
until later that
day. But it was these creatures that were dancing around doing what my mom described to me back in 1988. And I thought, this is really weird, because she doesn't read sci-fi, she never did. And for her to be describing what Whitley Strieber experienced, it was just like, wow, that's really odd. And according to Strieber, these beings do live inside the earth.
Yeah, he said he was hearing like underground tunneling sounds under his cabin. And now we think that that's what happened, is they're kind of hollowing out mountains and hillsides and mesas. And
well, they've been here for a long time.
Yeah, they've
had a lot of time.
Thousands of years. And so
it was very odd, to see that. Because I know I'd never seen the movie. I mean, I never got around to it. I was finishing up my acupuncture training in '89 and '90, so I never got around to seeing it. So.
And I think those little dwarf creatures were meant to be the Greys, but just Hollywood changing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, doing with what, especially for the '80s, doing with the best effects that they had at
1989. Yeah, they were basically little guys in suits at that point. Still.
Yeah, they used real people or real things or mechanics and stuff like that. But when this happened with your parents with the bells on the Chinese New Year, do you recall what month it was?
Sure, it was actually China. It was actually the Year of the Dragon. It was the morning of the Year of the Dragon. So that would have been either late January or early February in 1988.
Changes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to look up the exact date, but it was Chinese New Year's Day morning.
And it seems to us that almost every single paranormal experience that Stephen's family endured,
the majority,
took place in the winter.
Yes.
For some reason, winter is just, for the alien phenomenon, it seems to be more common that stuff happens then. I don't know why.
You know what? That's when stuff happens to me. Yeah. Realistically, is in the colder months. It's leading up to my birthday, and then it usually kind of like, as it starts getting warmer, it kind of stops. Every experience I've had has been in a colder month. So I I was gonna make when I asked you what month it was, because I didn't know what day the actual New Year was, but for the Chinese New Year, but I was gonna make a
Yeah, it
joke
shifts
about
around.
maybe,
It's always winter time. Always.
yeah, because
Yeah.
I was born in '88.
Ah, okay. Yeah,
I was
all right.
I was gonna say your mom was
We
hearing
announced
bells
your
because I
arrival.
was born.
Yeah. Well, the,
But
the
that was
funny the funny thing is you're right about the thing is like with our theory as far as being low light beings, it would make sense we be more active. They would be more active during when there's more dark rather than light. Because we
Right.
also found too that because they have the bigger eyes, that means they would be really photophobic in high light environments. They'd have to wear some type of visors or glasses or whatnot because they've developed in a lower light environment. And of course, they're also pretty much hairless because they don't need hair because
Yeah.
where they're living, as far as it's just basically evolution. We evolve certain ways. If you're more closer to the equator, you're going to get darker skin. If you're further away from the equator, you're going to get lighter skin. So it's just what nature does as far as how we evolve. We evolve quickly. Beings and creatures evolve very quickly to adapt. Like within a couple generations, we change.
And 13,000 years ago is when we think they went underground. So that's plenty of time to mutate away from us a little bit,
Yeah. So I have this strange story that I would love to tell you guys. See what you guys think of it. So this also happened in a colder month. It might have been around November, maybe early December, possibly even October. Is one of those months, but we had a light dusting of snow. It was just like a small sheet. And my sister and I, we wanted to go outside and play, but I remember my mom wanting that we had to go somewhere. My mom's just like, you can't be out for long. We got to go. So my sister and I went out and we're riding around on our bikes. It's like, we used to pretend monster hunting. We were monster hunters or looking for aliens or something. The squirrel tracks through the snow, they make like, because both either their front legs or their back legs come together and then vice versa, so it looks like three. So we would pretend like the alien had like a 3-pronged foot, and so we would follow it and we'd have like sticks for guns and stuff, and we'd walk through the woods. So this particular day we see the squirrel tracks, and then we decide to walk out in there pretending that we were hunting some kind of monster. And we come across this creek, and I remember this creek being a lot further into the woods, but I drove by there recently and it's like literally you can see it right from the road. But anyways, so I had glasses at the time and we're walking, and then all of a sudden it was like somebody like switched the lights or something like that. It was everything turned tinted blue. And I look across the creek, and there's like this little village of mushroom people. And there's like these little mushroom huts, and there's a big fire in the middle of their little village, and they're all like throwing these little twigs into their fire. And it was like 2 seconds, and it's like they knew that I was there. And they looked just like mushrooms. They didn't have faces. They didn't have a body. They just looked like moving mushrooms with like little nubs that they could probably arms.
Wild.
And they kind of like turned like this, as again, assuming they're looking at me. Can't tell because they didn't have eyes or anything. They didn't have a face. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then I get this like little tap on my head, and my head kind of just goes like that really quick, and my glasses fall off my face. And then I feel something on my shoulder, and I turn my head, and there's a mushroom on my shoulder. And then telepathically it goes, you don't need those. And I go, my glasses? And it goes, yes. And then just as it said yes, it was poof, it was gone. It went as I blinked my eyes or something like that. And my sister standing there, she's like, are you all right? And I go,
You're not going to believe this.
I just dropped my glasses. And she goes, oh, let me help you find them. So I kind of like kneel down trying to see where my glasses were, and then she comes walking over and she gets really close and you just hear crunch. And so as soon as my glasses broke, I was like, oh my God, my glasses. And the whole experience went out of my head. And I ran home and I was like, Mom, my glasses, my glasses. And she's like, I'm not going to get you a new pair right now. You have an appointment coming up. If your prescription changes, that means I'm just going to have to buy 2 glasses, and I'm not doing that. So you're going to have to like deal with it for now. I was like, oh shit. And then we went and got my eyes checked, and I had 20/20 vision, and my eye doctor was like, you don't need glasses.
The mushroom cured your eyesight.
Yeah. I haven't worn glasses ever since.
Wow.
Great. So did your sister ask you, said, oh, buddy, you must be shrooming?
I did tell my sister the story recently because it kind of like came into my head, and I was like, because I've always been scared to tell people a lot of my stories.
Something so bizarre happens. It's hard to.
Of course, they think that you're
nuts.
Like the weird things that happened in my family. I mean, you have 3 choices when you're in school. They either think that you're weird, that you're lying, or that you're living in a haunted house. Okay,
Yep.
So none of those choices are very good. So you got to be really careful about what you say, because you can get, going through school, you get pigeonholed really quickly. Oh, that's the weird kid.
The weird kid.
He lives in a weird house.
Weird phenomenon going on.
It's just, yeah.
Yeah. I definitely was, I was scared to tell people a lot of things about myself to begin with, let alone something like that. So when I finally told my sister, because I asked her if she remembered it, she's like, I remember going out in the woods numerous times. You gotta she remembers breaking my glasses, but she's like, I don't really remember like the circumstances around it, because I broke your glasses. I broke Mom's glasses. I broke Chris's glasses, my older brother. She's like, I broke everybody's glasses. So she's like, I don't remember anything specific about it, but I do remember her like standing there being like, "What the fuck is going on with you?" kind of thing.
Yes, if she saw the mushroom, she would have remembered that.
Yes, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's a saying that goes, and it's kind of almost like what happened to you, but a little different. It's the saying that's like the Zen masters say, when the student's ready, the master will appear. It's like when you were ready to see the mushrooms or have that experience with the little mushroom entities, whatever, you were allowed to see them. And you know what? The whole thing with telepathy, I keep on letting people know. I try to remind people that telepathy is actually the most basic way of communicating. We tend to think of it as like this advanced form of communication. No, everything we're doing now is like 7 steps away from telepathy. We kind of have a vestigial ability. Some people from time to time do have telepathy. But every single thought we have is a chemical process. Telepathy is just a symbolic representation. I mean, language is a symbolic representation of pictographic language and of telepathy. Okay, that's what we basically started out. We started out being telepathic. We've gradually lost that.
We think it's atrophied in us.
Yeah.
But has not atrophied in our cousins.
Right, that's why they don't need to. That's why they don't have to speak 10,000 different languages.
Yeah, they communicate.
They communicate via
minds,
picture. Like you don't have to say tree in 10,000 different languages. You project the image of a tree, and it's understood.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
Yeah, it is. It is. That's the way memory works. It's all a chemical, laying down chemical pathways and aligning them.
Do you have any sense that you were possibly an abductee?
Missing time?
No, that's the only. So thinking about that mushroom people story is like the only close thing that I could say was alien representative. Like I don't think it was. I don't think they were aliens, but like that was like the closest thing that has ever happened. I will. There's been a couple times that not in that moment. I didn't like, and at least with that story, I never felt missing time. But there's been times driving, plenty of times driving where I all of a sudden I'm like, wait, how the fuck did I get here? You know, and a lot of people have those. So I don't know if that's significant, if I'm just not paying attention and I'm just like in my head, or if that's actual missing time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you have like a half an hour or an hour that, or 2 hours, whatever, where you just can't account for it, then that's certainly different than, like, daydreaming.
Yeah.
I notice that myself, especially if I'm on a certain route, and then I'll like kind of like be thinking about something, and I won't recognize where I'm at. I said, oh, this is this part of the route I normally drive. It's just sometimes that disconnect, for me at least, is that it's, I don't recognize it for like a couple seconds, and I realize, oh, okay, this is part of the route.
Yeah. So the most recent time that I can account for, it was like 15-ish minutes. And there's all right. So I go to work at 2:30 in the morning. I leave the house about 2:30 in the morning. I start work at 3 a.m. And my route to work has been the same every day for 5 years now. And for whatever reason, this morning I kept going straight. So there's a little rotary, and I come off my exit and I take the first exit. And for some reason this day, I get on the rotary and I go all the way around to the other side, and I drive all the way down 15 minutes to where the Walmart is. And I remember looking up at the Walmart sign and being like, what the hell am I doing near Walmart? And then I had to turn around and go all the way back to that rotary to get back on to the road to head back to work.
Yeah. It's a strange thing how we get this, like, people will say they'll forget the names of roads, but they'll say, just make a left turn where the water tower used to be, or by the big oak tree that's got a missing branch. They can't remember the name of the street, but they can remember the landmarks.
Yeah.
But they've driven it for so long, they said, just about 10 minutes down this way, make a left, then go down about until you see the oak tree, make a right. They can't remember the roads, but initially they knew the roads. It's kind of funny how we just kind of tune out the stuff that we don't think is important.
Stuff you don't need. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting.
90% of what we do anyway is automatic. I mean, it's like we don't think about whether you put on your socks before your shoes or how to brush your teeth. It's just like automatic. When you actually really have to think and put your mind to learn something, that's hard. But if the things that you already know, it's like you don't have to remember how to drive your car every time. It's just, you go kind of into almost like a slightly hypnotic state when you're driving for long periods of time, because you just start to think about other stuff. And I daydream a bit, and it's kind of like you change your brainwaves a little bit. They start to slow down if you're just like, especially like when it's dark and whatever. It's the body says, okay, the natural thing for the body is when it's dark is naturally the body says, okay, it's time to go to sleep. So you're going to have slower brain activity during the dark times of the year, or the dark times like in a car, where you're going to be much more alert when it's bright, because your body says, okay, it's time to wake up. So your adrenal levels are going to be higher than they are at nighttime.
Our alien cousins tamper with their abductees' memories. We know that. And I don't know if that's what your mushroom people were, but it could be. The aliens, they torqued with Stephen's memories, in that when he was a little kid, he was seeing the aliens as gnomes.
Garden gnomes.
Like garden gnomes with the cute little hats, pointy hats, and the garden gnome.
My brother saw them also too. He was so scared of them that he slept in the closet for 2 years.
And his mother saw them as Chinese people, because they were dressed in this. She thought it looked like Chinese costumes, like Chinese regalia. But then there was, in that incident, she saw a weird elephant creature dancing in the room as well. And it was small, and it was, what color? I think it was some weird color too.
I don't remember.
And it was stomping around the living room, and
kind of like the creatures in Communion. Yeah. And
she after it was over, she went over there and she found the footprints were actually in the carpet.
It was very, very bizarre.
Whoa.
What you could have seen as far as the mushrooms, there are what are called like nature entities, or nature sprites and spirits. I mean,
Dryads,
Yeah, it's a real thing. Nature does manifest itself in different ways. There's even in Iceland they have.
Yeah, they believe it in Iceland.
in Iceland, if you're taking a road to what they call like an elf or a community of rocks, which is said this is actually where the elves live, whatever, their equipment stops working. They can't actually go through. They can't disturb the rocks. They disturb the rocks, the equipment just stops working. So they mandated that, okay, you come to like a known elf community, that you have the fairy community, you have to go around it. You can't
they make the roads go around it. So
they actually, it's mandated in Iceland. So anyway,
it's funny because I think a lot of alien activity is also centered around volcanoes. For whatever reason, they like volcanoes.
Yeah.
And
like
I think
the story of Mount St. Helens I just learned about a couple months ago. That cabin out there in the 1920s for the miners that they built, they only stayed in it for like a very short period of time, and they got attacked by ape men.
Yeah, bunch of ape men. It was in they called it Ape Canyon, I believe.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah, I've heard of that incident. And again, Sasquatch and UFO activity.
They're fairly linked, yeah.
UFOs
frequently.
Love volcanoes. I think it's because, they live underground, right? Well, what's their power source? Well, thermodynamics is an excellent power source. Geothermal.
Geothermal, yeah.
I'm sorry, geothermal is the right word.
Right.
Thank you, darling.
Okay. Well, everybody, we're at the hour and 10-minute mark.
Yeah, I start to get
want to be able to give you some time.
Yeah,
we want to give you some time to be able to plug your stuff.
Yeah, tell us all about what's up for you in the future. Sorry.
All right, so the podcast is Where the Weird Ones Are podcast. It's available on YouTube and anywhere else that you listen to podcasts, all the catchers out there, which I did not realize there are so many.
Yeah.
And then if you want to see what I'm up to lately, that's most everything is on the website Where the Weird Ones Are podcast.com. I sell hot sauce, I sell merch, I sell coffee, I write short stories on there. There's stuff about my productions. There's a couple other podcasts that I produce, like Talk Spooky to Me with Connie, David Don't Know, and The Real Verdict, which is a movie podcast. So there's a lot happening in the near future. I wrote a couple books. It's a series. There's a third one that'll be coming out later this year. So it's called The Adventures of Rizzo and Weird Son Monster Hunters. It revolves around a gentleman named Kevin Weirdson. I kind of structured the character around me and my dog Rizzo. Obviously, it is not me. I know he's much more braver than I, and probably a lot more handsome as well. But so he's a missing persons investigator, and while searching for missing people, he stumbles across cryptids and other monsters. So him and his trusty sidekick fight off these monsters and try and help save people.
You'll have to get Shia LaBeouf to play you, or somebody.
Not Shia LaBeouf. No, don't go for Shia LaBeouf.
Why? He looks like him a little bit. He's got to have the beard, though. He's got to grow the beard.
Yes.
Go for Daniel Radcliffe. That'd be better.
Yeah, actually.
Radcliffe.
That's a good choice.
Go for Radcliffe, or go for the other guy who was in the Dirk Gently. What's his name? I always forget his name.
Elijah Wood.
Elijah Wood
or John Bernthal. I know he's a little bit older than I, but
he could play younger, though.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, so that's just great. Hopefully that people will buy some of your merch, the people that watch this show.
Yeah.
And give you some business. And we want to definitely wish you good luck with your upcoming projects, your current project, as far as your producing, directing, and acting, and that's ambitious. And it's wonderful that you're out there. Podcast world is difficult, as far as getting followers. It's
for sure.
It takes time.
Yeah,
You've got to really market it. But
How long have you been podcasting?
A little over 3 years. I think this April will be, I think it'll be 4. Actually, I think this April will be 4 years.
That means we were one of your earlier guests the first time we met on your show.
Yes, right.
Yeah, because I think you guys were, because I'm in the 200s now. The first time you guys were on, I think I had just gotten over the 100 mark. I think either you were either right before 100 or right after 100. I know that.
Yeah, I'll have to look it up. It's because we had our new book out, which, by the way, is here it is. It's the we put out a new second edition of it.
Yep.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
And we're proud of it.
Yeah, Karen Wilkinson, also a fellow author and definitely an abductee.
Yeah.
This had 4 children.
She's amazing.
Yeah, I think we talked about her.
Have you had her on your show?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
We cried together, actually.
Really? She is a sweetheart.
Yeah, she's been through a lot.
She has.
Through a lot.
Yeah. Well, and the the abductee thing.
Yeah, that's because of that.
Being used as a human incubator. That's what these women are going through.
Yeah.
And I'm just, we don't know. Steve might have hybrid alien children. In fact, it's kind of likely. Yeah.
Likely I do.
Based on what we've seen with other abductees.
All the sperm they've stolen from me over the years.
Yeah. And this lady keeps crawling into bed with him that I don't like.
Well, it hasn't been recently, but it's been about 6 months.
This weird creature,
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for being our guest. It's really been fun, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Reciprocating back and forth, I'm sorry, what?
No, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the mushroom story.
Yeah.
That was very interesting.
You're welcome.
That was interesting.
You're welcome.
All right, everyone. We say goodnight to you all now in listening land, and please subscribe to us on our YouTube channel.
Yes,
Thanks.
please.
All righty.
Leslie, you're kidding me.
What?
Our merchandise store is up?
Of course, my darling. All of our amazing concepts of shirts, mugs, and bumper stickers are ready to go.
No way.
Way.
Even my brilliant Egyptian concept that no one else ever thought of before?
Yes, that one too, and lots more. All at our new store at etsy.com/shop/abductions101.
Wow. I want a shirt and a mug and...
Well, Stephen, and all our curious listeners, just go to etsy.com/shop/abductions101 to see all of our unique designs.
I'm going there.